Did you suspect Lorraine might be a writer when she was young?
Well, she as she wrote very well. She got good grades, and we traveled a lot, the family, and she, like me, they didn't think she had written. That was very common occurrence.
Who was they?
The schools.
Okay. They accused her of cheating, basically.
Well, yeah, I guess that's what you have to say. If the teacher tells you didn't write this, mm-hmm. You got that. I got a lot of that. The whole family went to Niagara Falls, and that was a wonderful trip. And when I came home, the teacher told all of the students to write what you did this summer. So I wrote, we went to Niagara Falls, and it was lovely. And the teacher gave me an F. She said, you didn't write. You haven't been to Niagara Falls, and gave me an F. And so, of course, I told Mother right away when I got home. The teacher said, we didn't go to Niagara Falls. Mother was up and dressed the next morning with this bag full of souvenirs from Niagara. She came and dumped them on the teacher's desk. She said, now, you gave my daughter an F, but she did go to Niagara Falls. Now you change her grade. So the teacher changed it to
a C or something.
That middle grade.
A C.
And so that was the best grade I could get at that time in history.
That actually makes me very emotional that you say that, because I have a similar story.
You do? I'm not surprised.
I'm just going to tell it really fast. I went to a predominantly Caucasian elementary school, and I was the type of student who I didn't really read the books, but I could always write a report about it and always got good grades. I wouldn't read the book.
I know. I remember.
And I would always get good grades. And then one time, I was in 5th grade, I'll never forget this, I picked a book called Iggy's House. I believe that was the name of the book. And it was about a Black family that moved into a white neighborhood. And I read this book from cover to cover, and I wrote the most impassioned book report, and I got a D. Yes. And I remember getting the D on that book report and thinking, what the heck is going on? And I can tell you, I never read another book until I was a senior in high school after that. Because in my mind, I said, well, what's the point of reading the book if when I do read the book, I'm going to get a bad grade? But now that I'm an adult, I understand I didn't get a bad grade. My report was probably better than any of the other ones I wrote.
Yeah.
But it was the subject the teacher didn't like. It was the fact that it was probably one of the best in the class, and she didn't like that a little Black girl wrote about this.
And to discourage you.
Yeah. And this was in the 1980s. So the fact that happened to you in the late 20s and still happening to your granddaughter in the 1980s just made me really, really emotional.
Yes.
It's really unfortunate.
That's a very hurting thing, because that is meant to belittle you.
Absolutely.
To make a liar out of you, and all those little things work on your psyche.
Absolutely.
But it didn't deter the Hansberrys, because we got so much love every day. My mother woke up, she was bathed and beautiful, and that's what she would say to me. You're beautiful and you're brilliant. That's what my mother told all of us. Mm-hmm. So we were ready for the outside world, because I already knew the teacher wasn't going to give me the grade, and she would tell me, you're not going to get the grade you deserve. but do the best you can. Show her your brain. That was common in our family. Show her your brain.
I love that.
And so we got through that because we ignored the negative, because we got so much love and understanding at home. Mother and Daddy were ready for that world. They already knew it. So we were complimented about the most minute thing. Oh, that was beautiful. That's so beautiful and brilliant. She used that all the time. And I always tell people about that in my speeches, so they will stop downing their kids, compliment your children, because your children will believe you and be ready for the outside world.
Thank you for sharing that. I've heard that story. I love that story. And you put a button on that story by telling us that it wasn't until you were about 40 that you knew that you were neither.
Neither beautiful or brilliant.
And you are absolutely beautiful and brilliant. One of the most beautiful women I've ever seen, and absolutely brilliant. The fact that you say that is just really. I come from this family, and I think about the fact that I didn't read another book or fully read another book till I was a senior in high school. But I think about the other Black children who didn't come from the family that I came from. I was able to still soak up information. I soaked up information other ways. But as you say, there's other Black children who just take that and just cut off that part of the world, and that's unfortunate. And going back to Lorraine, that especially really tells a story of how amazing and larger than life she was, because she believed herself. She believed in herself, and that was instilled in her by you and your parents and the family. And that's really
she
telling.
Got that message.
Yeah, that's. I've sometimes heard stories. Who knows if they're true or not, where people would say, conceited is not the right word, but they'd say Lorraine had, I don't really know the right word to say, but you know what I'm talking about, where someone is they don't care what anybody else thinks. And especially for a Black woman to go through the 40s and 50s in New York and be as brilliant as she was, to not really hold so tight to the norms of what she was supposed to think about herself.
That was so ingrained. Our parents were so positive and strong. When I got to college, and I had so looked forward to that because it was Howard University. I would get to be in the In Club and wonderful. And I wanted to be a lawyer, and Daddy said, we need a lawyer in the family. So I went with full intention of being a lawyer, plus Jewel was a lawyer, and that was a good way to go. Got into this political science class, and Professor Dorsey was there. And he criticized Abraham Lincoln. He didn't care anything about the slaves. It blew my mind. I was on my feet. I said, how dare you criticize Abraham Lincoln? He freed the slaves. Don't you know that? And my girlfriend Pat was pulling on my pants to get me to shut up and say, I raved. I was so angry because slavery was the most horrible thing you could think. Here, this man, this white man, fought to free the slaves. And this professor at a university was criticizing him.
Yeah.
And Pat was trying to get me to sit my butt.
But from your upbringing, you didn't even know not to stand up and say that, which is a beautiful thing. And that's definitely you, Lorraine, and Carl and Perry all have
Abraham Lincoln freed the slave, gave up his life. He was murdered because that was what they were mad about. And I think his children were affected. He was hated because of that. And here this black professor not give him credit. The man had given his life. So I called Daddy. I said, I told him what happened. I said, you know, he also told me, well, Miss Hansberry, you can go on back to Chicago. Can you believe that? So Daddy says, you want me to come up there and explain it to him? I said, I don't think it would do any good. I'll just switch over to clothing and art, which is my life love.
You talk about the opening night of Raisin in the Sun, and you always talk about how Lorraine was going to wear sneakers and jeans or something to that effect to the premiere of her Broadway play on Broadway, and you told her absolutely not, and you went out and you bought her an outfit or something to that nature.
I went to...
Please tell us about that.
Well, she arrived by train, she and Bob, and she had this little bit of suitcase. And later I said, what are you going to wear? She looked at me. I said, what are you going to wear? So I said, well, that's okay. I'll go pick something for you. And I went to, there was a beautiful shop on North Michigan. This was in Chicago.
So this wasn't this wasn't the Broadway, but the opening in Chicago, which preceded the New York opening, correct?
Yes. Okay. So I went to Draper's and I found a lovely black lace dress. She always liked whatever I bought for her, and brought it home. And we left it up to her to get herself a pair of black potosoir pumps. And she looked absolutely beautiful. And that picture is in our scrapbook or something, in that black lace dress at Sardi's restaurant.
I was going to say, she must have worn the same dress to the opening in New York, because it's one of my favorite photos of her. So she's standing at the bar with Lloyd Richards, and I don't know if she has a cigarette in her hand, but I believe her hand is up, and she has this gorgeous black dress on.
Yes.
And this is the dress that is the beauty of the two of you as sisters. You guys were you gals were sort of opposites in that sense, where she didn't really care about that kind of stuff.
That's
and you
right.
did, so you complimented each other, and you weren't going to let your baby sister go to her either one of her openings in jeans and sneakers.
She always loved what I bought her.
Was that the only time you ever did anything like that, or was that a kind of thing where you would often say, Lorraine, you can't wear that to...
Well, you know, it wasn't, that would have been a criticism, a deep, so you didn't have to say that I just got what she should wear.
You just did it.
It's more like that.
Got it. I love that.
And there was another occasion where I had to buy Evans Pecan. Have you ever heard of that name? That's a famous clothing outfit. And I got this gorgeous, it was tan color. And the gloves. I would buy everything. The gloves, the pocketbook, and everything.
And sort of hand it to her.
And she loved it.
She
loved it. But she would take the money. Mother would say, well, why don't you go shopping today and get some nice things? Take the money, put it in her pocket, and go spend the day at the library.
These are the gems I love.
And so that's it. Oh, we're waiting at home to see what she bought. And she had forgotten all about that.
Because she went to the library to soak up information.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.